Okay, I think I'm live now, and I think people can hear me. Let me put my ears in. Here we go. Well, this is a bit of a surprise stream for me today. Let me hydrate. And so I'm not expecting really anyone to show up, but I just had... Sometimes I discovered I can use these live streams as a way of just getting some things out, especially because we are in the middle of a shopping season right now. So I did a buying guide stream, what was it, last week? And I wanted to follow up on a special topic, which is used drawing tablets. Before I continue, let me do a little cleanup here, which I always like to do as I begin my streams, to make sure you're seeing the correct content and not things like my appointments for my doctor. Okay. Almost there. And while I'm at it, let me find the link to my live content. So I'll put that in the Discord. Let's see, stream, and then let me just at the right people. Oops, wrong keyboard. 7 minutes. Live now and on camera. I was explaining to a friend just yesterday. We had lunch. I was explaining to him that I do these live streams for hours at a time, and sometimes how challenging it can be to maintain sort of an energy level that goes on for 4 hours. People, even if you're comfortable in front of the camera, it's a different thing to, I can hear myself talk and I can see myself. There's a teleprompter in front of me, but not having any audio feedback can be quite, I think it could be quite, that gets to me. I like to hear a little bit of noise at least, but I think it's got to be unnerving if you don't get any voices coming back at you. Oh, look, we have people here. Eric is here. Stephanie is here. And Ascot is here. Vibing. Thanks for joining us. And let me, where's my background music? Okay, let me turn it up in my own ears. Okay, let me hydrate. First of all, thank you for joining me today. Again, this was a surprise stream. I knew I wanted to do something about an hour ago, and I thought I was going to do pen tablets versus pen displays. Hi, Ivan Zorkic. Good to see you. Eric says we're just waiting for the music. That's correct. I missed out a step there. Yeah. So today's stream is going to be about buying used tablets, but as always, we can change. We can add on to the topics. But I do want to get through that one, and as always, we'll take as much time as we need to. Anyway, back to my story. Talking to an audience and not getting audio feedback from the audience is a bit weird. It's very unnerving. That's why I like the music, because it sort of keeps me engaged, oh, something is happening. Because if it was just dead silence, it would feel weird. It'd be because I am alone in a room after all. And I decided to dress up again today, just a little bit. So let me begin by saying, again, last week we did the drawing tablet buying guide. I don't think I got through every topic that I wanted to, but I got through enough. But there's one topic that I want to drill into. Now, I made a video about this last year. And, no, not last year, 2 or 3 years ago. But what I've learned has evolved. What you've learned has evolved. And my situation, meaning which tablets I have, has evolved. So I wanted to cover some of those topics. Cami Luna, 5 minutes left off lunch break, but I'm incoming calls for an hour, so I can still... Okay, great. Thank you. I always love having Cami Luna. Speaking of refreshing, I'm going to put Cami Luna's comment here, and you should all be able to see... Can you see it or comment? and her what do you call it? Her profile picture, this drawing she made. I love that so much. You know what it reminds me of? I don't know, Kimmy Luna. Do you remember Fraggle Rock, that Jim Henson production on HBO? The character just reminds me of the cute Fraggles. Ascot says use tablets. I love use tablets. Yeah, so we're going to talk use tablets. And before I continue, let me just make sure you have two things, which is a link to the old video. Or actually, the link to the old doc, which links to the old video. Give me a second, I'll find it. Where is it? Use tablets. Because again, I think this document's a little out of date because I have learned things in the meanwhile. You remember Fraggle Rock? I loved Fraggle. I was a huge Fraggle Rock fan. Let's see, where am I? Oh, I need to get the live stream comments on my Windows computer. I'll give you a second. Let's pop out that chat. And then, there we go. Oh, I didn't pop out the chat, did I? Let's try that again. There we go. Oh, I have two of them. Okay, no worries. Okay, I'm going to put a link to my used buying. It's part of my buying guide. It's linked from my buying guide, but it's about used tablets. I think in many ways my life is about recreating the cozy experience of Fraggle Rock personally. If I could do that, I'd be fine. When I was a child, I was always intrigued by the idea of small creatures living like in the world, like in our world. And this is when I was very young. I actually thought it'd be great to like shrink people. I mean, with their consent. So that we lived in smaller spaces in the world. Like, I don't know, I guess we could be like tree elves or something. Anyway, that's just when I was young. Let's see. Nick is here. Nick, I don't have a new antique Wacom to play with. But if people want me to see an old one, I'd be happy to do it. Ivan says, interested in the topic, although I already made my choice. I was torn between Cintiq 24 Pro and new Cintiq 24. Ended up with a new one. Yeah, I really do think the new Cintiq is the way to go. I really do that. Hey, good to see you. We have another Trung. You know, I'm not good at pronouncing things. Nguyen Arts. I know you're on my Discord. But I never know how to pronounce words. But it is good to if you want me to say it a certain way, just tell me, because I always want to get names the way people want them. I myself am not picky about my name. Okay, so I sent the link to the doc, and I'm going to send in the doc. I'm going to bring it up in a second. Bear Mix, good to see you. Good to see you. And Laws Brett Art, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Wow, I didn't expect people to join. This was a randomly scheduled stream 15 minutes ago I started, right? Ascot says, I watched a video about Wacom in 2003 and how it still holds up today. Yeah, absolutely. They hold up remarkably well. Okay, let me do a little bit of housekeeping here, meaning the movement of devices and mice, so that I have space to talk to you about things. By the way, I have been improving so many drawing tablet tools through the use of vibe coding. I am just like doing it nonstop these days. I improved my pressure tester. Maybe I'll show that to you in a little bit. And I have some feedback for the Wacom Moving Pad Pro 14 cover, which I'm not very satisfied with, by the way. Okay, what do I want to do? I want to show you a video. I just want to make sure you see the video. Let me close some more windows, though. Otherwise, you're going to see a bunch of source code. And that's not very fun. Okay, let's see. Let us go to YouTube. Lots of people are still with the Intuos 3, and I frankly cannot blame them. Let's see. Okay, sorry. There's YouTube comments coming in that I wanted to reply, that I saw. Let's go to my video list. And it was called Used. Which would people prefer, used or pre-owned? I did one in June. Yeah, I did a live stream actually in June for 3 hours, but I'm going to send you the video I did back in 2022. So give me a second. Let's get there. Yeah, that's the one from 2022. And I'm going to open it up because I do want you. I'm going to open the doc because I do want you to see it. It is kind of important. And yes, Kami Luna, they are very sturdy and long-lasting. On the stream earlier this year, I used a Wacom tablet from 30 years ago. Secondhand is better from you. That's your idea, Ascot? Used can have somewhat of a negative connotation. So there's three options. There's used, there's secondhand, and there's pre-owned. I think the most formal neutral one is pre-owned. Laws Bread Art says, I love my Intuos. It's a solid. Which one do you have, Laws Bread Art? Pre-used and stuff sounds kind of like it's old and worse quality. How about pre-owned? Let's see, Rain says, good topic. I was just saying in Discord that even though the Intuos 2017 is great value and experience for a buyer, who would want to use the Wacom 2025 Intuos? Yeah, and that's actually a very specific topic. I'm going to show you something I wrote about that today. Why don't we... okay, hang on. Intuos 4, yeah, that's a classic. That was in some sense a kind of peak design aesthetic for Wacom, honestly. And I used an Intuos 4 XL for about a year. I loved it. This was just about 2 years ago. Pre-owned, Kami Luna says, or proned. Okay. But I tell you what, before I do the use thing, let's get a few news items out of the way because I want to talk to you about them. Number one, we got to talk about the Wacom Moving Pad Pro cover, and I'm just going to show you my notes. Let me bring up my... Okay. Because I feel it's important to tell you this, okay? Moving Pad Pro, yeah. So I'm still writing my notes, but I want to talk about the accessory, which is the Moving Pad cover. So this cover costs about $60, and there's my summary. It's overpriced and it under-delivers, right? It doesn't grip to the tablet very strongly. Like, it's very easy to come off. It's very, like, you know, one of the tests you can do for some tablet covers is you can hold the tablet by the cover and jiggle to see if the tablet will come off. This will come off pretty easily. So that's a negative. I want to see them grip strongly. It's also very finicky. Like, it doesn't join necessarily like cleanly. The other thing is it is expensive. It's like $60 for what it is. It doesn't feel very premium. It feels like something that should cost $15. And the other thing is, how can I say it? If you're in a dark room, because I draw in bed at night, so my tablet's with me a lot. Yes, I have woken up next to my Wacom Moving Pad Pro, which is not a good idea because it could fall off the bed and get damaged. But I noticed with the cover in a dark room that the tablet was on. When the tablet's on, you can see not just light from the tablet through the cover. You can actually read the time. I mean, there's like a big time text on the cover when it's, you know, locked. You can read those numbers. So I'm like, whoa, that's not very nice. So that was disappointing. You know, for $60, look, I'm not expecting, Mont Blanc level of cover, right? Like if you have a Mont Blanc wallet. But I'm expecting a decently good cover. Let's be honest. Well, Nick, we're going to talk about the drivers. We're going to talk about just a minute, but it's worthy of talking about them because it's not that the drivers themselves break, it's what causes them not to work, and we'll talk about it. Okay, since I'm mentioning this topic, let's go back and talk about that exact topic. So the meta topic, we'll get to the used tablets thing, is should you get and it's kind of related, should you buy a Wacom Intuos 2025 or a Wacom Intuos 2017, okay? And Intuos Pro, I mean. And I actually took some notes on this. And I want to share them with you. I want to walk them through with you. Because lots of people, the reason why it's related is lots of people are thinking about buying a used Intuos Pro 2017. Okay, so this is my 2017 notes, which are pretty extensive, okay? Very extensive. But at the bottom, I added this section just this morning, which is talking about buying an Intuos Pro 2017 today. And this applies whether it's new or used, okay? So I just want to make it very blunt what my actual feedback, which I think is the feedback that's correct for the majority of people is. And that is, the fundamental question is it worth buying in 2025? My answer is, it will be difficult. You will struggle with it. Most people will. And I think the better choice for most people will be buying the Intuos Pro 2025. And let me dive deep into that. So this isn't meant, Intuos Pro is the PTH X60 series. I don't want to say anything bad. There's nothing bad with the tablet. It's excellent. It still arguably is the best tablet on the market, okay? So it's nothing about the quality of the tablet. Rain says, I love my PTH 860. I do too. Don't get me wrong. I love my tablet. And I would say it is just as good as the new Intuos Pro 2025, okay? And lots of people still use it. I was using it up until about a month ago. And again, this is another thing we believe still, based on some measurements Tablet Expert Cube did, that the Intuos Pro, the Pro Pen 2, is still the best pen on the market, even better than the Pro Pen 3. So it's an excellent tablet. I just want to make sure that's clear. But using that tablet is going to have a challenge. About a week or so ago, I went through, and I'll show this to you so everyone's totally clear. Look on the left, you see a bunch of names of tablets, right? So Intuos 1, 2 through 5 through Pro are all the Pro tablets, okay? And if we go one by one, I went on Wacom's site and I figured out when the tablet was released and when the last driver was released, okay? So this is 1998 to 2011. That's Intuos 1. Intuos 2 was 2001 to 2012. And so on, and all the way to Intuos 5, which is 2012, to 2022. So driver support lasts for between 10 to 12 years based on the data that we have for Wacom. Okay, so you have to keep that in mind. So every product has a support lifecycle. For Wacom Intuos Pro, seems like it's 10 to 12 years. Okay, support lifecycle, at least as I'm talking about it now, means two things. Let me put my face here so it's it means two things. Number one, are new drivers being produced for that tablet? Okay. Number two, are documentation is documentation being updated for that tablet? Number three is if you call up or email customer support, will they help you? Will they answer a question about this tablet? At the end of a support lifecycle, none of those things are true. Okay. Now that by in and of itself is not the end of the world. Okay, that can be okay that all those things are true, as is proven by the many people still using an Intuos 4 or Intuos 3. Ivan, you're right. That is actually, the more I talk and listen to people online, the more I'm hearing reports of the button strips falling out and the individual buttons popping out. And you cannot buy the strip And I'm not sure it's fixable in some sense. It's certainly not replaceable. Well, Nick, my definition of support is kind of very colored by how we do it at Microsoft. Okay, so customer support means a lot of things. So I don't mean to say that my definition is probably what everyone would use, right? But let's also be clear on the driver topic, and so we're going to get to that. Okay, so let's get to, where was I on my Intuos? Okay, so based on the numbers, I think what's going to happen is it's about to be 2026. Okay. So I believe, based on the numbers I have shown you, and you can look these up on my site, support will end 2027 at the earliest to 2029 at the longest. Potentially, it might go to 2030. And it might go to 2030 because this was an immensely popular tablet. And I think people are going to want to hang on to it. I think Wacom is probably going to get a lot of feedback from people meaning from us for sure, but from big customers like production studios that say, hey, just imagine if Disney told them, hey, we're going to be sticking with the Intuos Pro 2017 for 5 more years. We would like you to continue driver support. A big company like that, that talks to any company, like to Microsoft or Wacom, has a lot of influence. And I say this from personal experience. There are things, I worked on a product once, and then the product does something which is correct, and then Bank of America calls up and says, we don't want you to do that. And we're like, hey, this is the correct thing to do. The all sorts of documents say to do it that way. We're supposed to do it that way. And they go, yeah, that's cool, but we're Bank of America and we pay you a lot of money, so do it our way. So we have to add a special, I'm not joking, by the way, this is a true story. We had to add a special Bank of America registry key that told the software to do something different for Bank of America. And we only told Bank of America about it. That's a true story. That's the extent to which a big customer can affect what you do, okay? So we saw with the Intuos 4 XL that Wacom, especially for the XL model, Wacom only recently dropped driver support, far after the other Intuos 4 models. So there is a little bit of precedent. Regardless, I don't necessarily know we're going to see the same thing, but it's possible. I think you should be prepared, honestly, you should be prepared for Wacom to drop support in 2027, okay? I know that's being maybe paranoid, but I think it's the wise thing to do because we're already seeing Wacom do things like the Moving Pad Pro will not work with the Pro Pen 2. So they're already signaling maybe, hey, they want us to get on newer stuff, okay? Now let's try to deal with Nick's point, which is, will the drivers stop working? And this is a weird one. The code is the code. The code doesn't change. If it was working on Monday and Wacom drops support on Tuesday, the driver will still work, okay? And that's how the code works. There are challenges with this, okay? And the challenge is not that the driver code, it's not like it's decaying or something. What happens is Windows and Mac OS get updated, okay? And they get updated and they change something in an API. And it may not even be necessarily tablet related. It could be a security thing, okay? They may say, for example, whoever's using this API, the API could be something like list files in a directory. They could say, oh, that's considered an insecure API. We want you to use this. Or at the very least, you need to recompile your code, okay? So changes like that happen all the time, okay? They happen on Mac OS, they happen on Windows. And if one of those changes requires a driver to have a new binary, meaning they have to recompile the code, at least recompile the code, maybe they need to change the code. That is an opportunity for a couple of things to happen. First of all, the change in the operating system will make the old driver not work, or not work fully. Like you might lose pressure or something. Who knows? The second thing is that the new driver may drop support, which Wacom did recently. A lot of you were using like the Intuos 5 models with Mac OS. You upgraded to Mac OS 26, you were just completely hosed, because with Mac OS 26, it required a new Wacom driver, and the new Wacom driver dropped support for Intuos 5. That's the problem. It's not that the code itself isn't working, it's the situation the environment is running in is breaking it in some way. That's the problem, okay? And when you get to that point, especially toward the end of support lifecycle, Wacom is not going to update the driver to, they're going to drop support. They're not going to keep on supporting it. So that's the unfortunate reality. Let's see. Stephanie says, I've got the iPad paper-like film on my drawing tablet, and though it feels nice to draw on, it basically gnawed my nib terribly in a matter of an hour. Were you doing, Stephanie, were you doing a lot of like this? Do I have a pen here? Were you like drawing like this, like shading? Because that's typically what I see people wear through their nib is when they're doing this a lot. So I encourage people to find alternate shading methods. Okay, so I just want to make sure you do that. Now the hardware of these tablets, let me go back to my document, will work basically forever, 30 years plus. The pens are also very stable, but pens have moving parts, so they can break. If this happens with the drivers, we'll talk about this in the used tablets, but there are options, and we'll talk about them. One is, of course, Open Tablet Driver, okay? So, before I continue, let me do two things. Let me just bring up Notebook LM. You're not gonna see this for a second. And I'm gonna just, we're gonna use it to make sure I don't miss any topics. Give me a second. Actually, I should show this to you. There's nothing like secret here. Where is it? Okay. Okay, we're gonna create a new, and we're gonna just bring in information, okay? This is a good way of researching things. If you're ever wondering what I'm talking about, or what Brad and TO, you can just put in a bunch of URLs here, and we're going to do exactly that, okay? So give me a second. We're gonna bring in two sources, which is You found it too, Cami Luna? Yeah, it took a lot of people by surprise. I mean, people were furious. Okay, I'm gonna go here to buying used tablets. Oops, that's the current stream. My mistake. And I'm gonna add a source there. Okay. Uploads YouTube. Sorry, I just want to make sure we're having a structured conversation, so I'm just pasting everything in. This will help me make sure we are not missing anything. Now, related to that is I did a stream on older tablets, used in older tablets. I'm going to get that. I think I can get that as well. Hopefully I can. Let's add another source, which is YouTube. Hopefully this works. I'm not sure if it can parse streams. Oh, of course, it can't do streams. I love that. That's fine. I'll just point it to my used tablet dock and my older tablet dock, because they're very related, used and older tablets. Oh, that's not a YouTube URL. Sorry. Let's add another link, which is just a website. Yep. Insert that, and I want older tablets and older drivers, because that's really what we have to deal with here. Let's add another source. Older drawing tablets and older drivers. Okay. And this is great because, again, it'll just help me make sure we're talking about everything we want to talk about. Let's see, Stephanie says, I got the Huion PW550 recently, and it turned out its max pressure is... Whoa! That is wild. That is unusual. I have not seen one go down that low. Are you going to return it, Stephanie? I'm going to note this down because let me add this to my show notes. That is absolutely something that I'm surprised by. But some tablet, I think I would consider that a defective pen. So if you can return it, that would probably be the best idea. Let me create my show notes real quick. But thank you for sharing that. I mean, like, my experience has been pretty good, and almost everyone, you're the first person that's told me they've had a bad max pressure with that model. Let me create a new page. What is today? 2025, 11/19. It's already 19, huh? Wow. Hello, paste text only. Oh, I see. Let's try this again. Where the heck is my... I'm typing in things, but it's still getting white text. Thanks. Appreciate it. Okay. I'll leave it like this. This was definitely... There we go. Wacom Cintiq 22.8 QHD is 10 years old and works until now in Windows 10 11. I think they're going to pull it not too long from now. Let me explain why. Let's just let's go to the Wacom drivers. Again, the old drivers still work until Windows or Mac OS does something. Let's see. Yeah, this is the latest driver. Take a look at the release notes. So they dropped support for the where is it? Yeah, they dropped support for these models, right? Now, so they have dropped professional devices, clearly. They dropped these Cintiqs, which I think are, Nick, in the same time generation, like near the same years as a Cintiq Pro. I do imagine they'll give their Pro models a bit more lifetime. I didn't look at the lifetimes for consumer level tablets. But yeah, I think it's inevitable. It's inevitable that they'll do it. By the way, while we're on this topic, I want to let you know, I went to the Wacom store, and there's one tablet I've never bought, which I do not have, which I've always wanted, not because I need it. You all know I don't need more tablets. But it's this one. It's the Cintiq. It's actually the Cintiq 24... Cintiq Pro 24, sorry. This specific one. They have it here? Yeah. Well, not that one. I guess this is it. Why didn't go there? There we go. And this is a refurbished one, and it's still $1,800. Right? And almost $2,000 normally. So I'm like, it's way too expensive. Cami Luna asks a great question. Once support is pulled from an old Cintiq, can the Cintiq be used as a monitor? Yeah, absolutely. Nothing about the driver affects how the monitor works, okay? Like, it'll still work as a monitor. The only thing we have to be careful of are settings that the driver controls. Perfect example. I believe some of the Cintiqs have a fan that can be controlled by the driver, like how fast it spins. However, if the driver won't work with the tablet, then you have no control over the fan. So you want to make sure you know if let's say brightness and contrast or whatever, if those settings can be done through the monitor, through the tablet itself, like with an on-screen display, as opposed to just the driver. Yeah, exactly, Camulina. It's like crazy. It's crazy. They still cost so much. Flackbuzz says, I had the Cintiq Pro 24, but what's stopping me to use it was the ergo stand is too... Yeah, it is crazy expensive. Thank you for reminding me that. I really want it to, like, you know, have a big bezel monitor or a tablet, right? Okay. Ergotron Flex Arm. Oh, you used that with the Cintiq Pro 24? Is that the HX or the LX, Nick, that you use? And let me get back to my, this thing, okay. Used, okay, and let's just do a quick mind map. That's the quickest thing that'll help me. And then I'm gonna bring up my whiteboard and we'll, I'll still see the mind map, but we'll use my whiteboard to figure things out. Okay, while we're doing that, let me set up the my screens, okay? Give me a second. Display settings and duplicate on 1 and 3. Perfect. Keep changes. Great. Would the 140 desktop arm by Huion work with the Cintiq Pro 1720? As I think it's using VESA mounts, Camulina. So as long as it's the same VESA mounting, like 100 millimeters or 75 millimeters, it should work. That being said, one should verify what the ARM is doing with the Cintiq Pro 17 or 24. Because I recall one of those, it should, yeah, because I have them actually sitting on a desk. The Cintiq Pro 17, I believe, does have VESA mounting, so it should work. Oh, the old 24 Pro does not have the VESA mount. That's right, there's an adapter. Thank you, Nick. I forgot about the adapter. Okay, let me bring up MS Whiteboard, and we're gonna do our talking about used tablets. Okay, give me a second, and let's get it going. Used whiteboard. By the way, tonight I'm going to use, I'm going to try to vibe code my own whiteboard. I'm totally into vibe coding my own tools for these streams. Let's see, Laws Brett Art. I draw on a very old 2nd gen iPad Pro and use my 2019 Intel iMac for Photoshop. InDesign of my tools, would love to try a screen tablet. Yeah, well, you know, yes. Sometimes it's good to try. Before you buy anything, try it out. Maybe with a friend or at some place where, you know, a school or a library or something that they might have one, because 5 minutes will tell you if a pen display will work for you. Lots of people don't like pen displays because they end up shrimping over the keyboard, over the tablet. Okay. I've got the whiteboard here, and I'm gonna maximize it, okay? And then we are going to take a look at the topics. Okay, and I've got the mind map ready. Okay, we're ready. And what I'd like you to do, of course, RF Sketch asks a good question. What's my favorite nib for drawing? It depends on the specific. It depends on the specific tablet surface. RF Sketch. For me, it's either I just use the standard plastic nib, or with some tablets or at some moments, I use a felt nib because they do actually provide much more of a texture feeling. So I will use felt nibs if the surface doesn't provide enough texture. But otherwise than that, I just normally stick with plastic nib. Actually, they're all made of plastic, by the way. But the ones that are called felt, are also made of plastic, but sometimes I use those. Again, when the screen doesn't quite have enough texture. Okay, you should be able to see. Okay, so I've got my mind map here. And what we're gonna do is talk about used. Let me move this keyboard out of the way so I'm a little more comfortable with myself. Okay, we're gonna talk about used. I've never seen an E with that many things. Used drawing tablets. Should you buy them? Why do people buy them? Right? And what can we learn from my experience? And I have a lot of them, by the way. If you want to see how many I have, and I do want to show you this, less as a brag, but more to make you understand, I have experience in this topic, okay? Like, I'm not speaking out of complete ignorance. I actually have found things out. Okay, let's go get the, where's my Excel file? Hang on. I'm gonna launch it in another window, then drag it over. Be a bit easier for me. Microsoft Office. Getting back to my nib problem, did you experience a nib with plastic body but metal tip? I have not tried that yet. I still need to buy one that's, I think, a plastic body with a ceramic tip. Let's see. Where am I? I'm gonna find Excel. Okay. I'm trying not to dox myself, so you gotta just give me a little second. Where is my? I have a list with literally all my purchases and with all the amounts and everything, but I'm trying to show you something slightly different. Let's see, I want to get to my OneDrive, and this is all data that's public, by the way. It's actually on a OneDrive folder. This is called my inventory. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so so everyone knows, these are all my tablets. I have 113 tablets, okay? And you can just tell, for the most part, how many are used. There are a couple of exceptions here, but basically anything with eBay is by definition used here almost. There's a couple of exceptions. So I bought, what's it say? 51 tablets that are used, okay? Most are pen tablets, but you can see some pen displays there as well. Like I see 2, 3, and some of these I bought on Amazon were actually used as well. But I do have some experience with used pen displays. And some are new, technically new purchases, but they're of older pen displays. So I've got a decent amount of experience. Let's see. Speaking of used tablets, Nick says there's a very big step in prices on eBay. 5+ year Cintiq Pros are really cheap. The average 24 Pros are around 1,000 USD, and newest gen is super expensive. Maybe I should do that. Ivan, I do have a lot of pens too. I have 137 pens. Okay, 137. Some of those came with the tablets, of course, and then some of them I bought in addition. That's why I have more pens than I have way more pens than I have tablets. And also, if I'm doing testing with the pen, I like to have 3 of the pens, so I'll always buy 2 more. Now you know how I spent $10,000 a year on tablets, right? This is what happens. Okay, let me get back to my. Okay, so I'm gonna keep on looking for questions, but until I get more questions, what I'm gonna do is just open up one of my docs here and we'll just go through the topics, okay? So my first topic was, what's my experience, okay? And so I have pen tablets, I have used pen tablets, used pen displays. I don't have any used pen computers, okay? And and I remember and pen computer here means like a Wacom Mobile Studio Pro or a Huion Canvas. I don't think you should get those devices, okay? And I don't have any experience with used like mobile computers, like an iPad or or a Samsung. Nick, I like where you're going. I think I said something like that in the Discord, which is, something about nibs and one nib in the darkness to bind them, right? 137 pens owned by 7 pens. Yes. Okay. So what's the first question everyone has? I think is probably going to be brand. Okay. Now let me just summarize one more time because I know this is going to it'll be controversial for some. Which brand should you pick for used tablets? Okay. Brand, and the other question is type of tablet. Okay. And they're separate questions, but we're going to start with a brand. Okay. So of course you have Wacom, Huion, and Huion, at Alia, meaning others, okay? Now I'm gonna be frank with you. In general, I will steer anyone to get a Wacom, okay? And the reason for that is we have a lot of knowledge about, we have a lot of experience with these tablets, okay? I have personally used a Wacom tablet that's 30 years old, okay? So that's one reason. We just have a lot of experience, okay? The second reason is their EMR technology was like ahead. Remember, they had battery-free pens for a lot longer than Huion did, and XP Pen, it's all the competitors, right? More advanced. And they're still more advanced, even though it's probably less obvious how that is. More advanced, okay? The second thing is there's lots of these old Wacom tablets on the used market. Tons of them, right? So generally speaking, I would say look at Wacom, okay? I think that's generally speaking the thing. And Huion, it's not that I think people will have necessarily, I don't want to just blame Huion here. Let's just put XP Pen. So I'm not singling out Huion. It's not that they have a problem per se, but their older tablets aren't as good as their newer tablets. Versus Wacom, their older tablets were really good, right? Some older Wacom tablets are still better than a modern Huion. And you have to keep that in mind, right? So we have that. We have decades of experience. And we know they last a long time, right? With Huion, I think here you're taking on a little bit more risk, right? So if it's an older tablet, an older Huion, let's say something, before 2021, let's say, and this is arbitrary, then I would say no. I would typically just say no. If it's a battery-powered pen, that tells you it's older tech, I would also say no, okay? If it's a PW500 or a PW100 pen, I would say no, right? You want to get, you want the latest pens possible. The lowest I'd be willing to tell you to get one is a PW. This would be okay. This is for Huion, okay? I can't speak so much about XP Pen because I don't know their older pens so well. And the other thing is these newer Huion tablets and XP Pen, they have a lower initial activation force, okay? So in general, I will say Wacom's gonna give you a better performance, a better likelihood it will actually work, okay? I know this is kind of unfair to XP Pen and Huion, but I think this is the truth, okay? Let's see. Nick, I have actually bought one used Huion, and we'll talk more about that in a second as we get to our next topic related to brand. And it did work. I have no complaints. Carla Cusa, did I see that the new XP Pen has an advertised IF to 2 gram force? I will be testing it. Probably I'll be waiting to test it. It's the X4 pen, the one you're talking about, the one that comes with the Artist 12, 3rd generation. I'm gonna wait to test it a little bit because I try to test when I have 3 pens because there's too much, you can get a bad unit. Now the unit I had felt good, but could it be 2 gram force? I could believe it, right? But subjectively I believe it for sure. Let's see. Definitely, yes. I will talk about a technique for measuring IF. Absolutely. Just remind me later in the stream, please. Albert says, good timing. I'm picking up an older Wacom PTH 660. Oh, fantastic. This is great timing for you because we will go deep on getting these PTH 660s. Huion support, sometimes they're very good. They've always been great with me, by the way. And again, I do not have any relationship with Huion, XP Pen, or Wacom. So they've just answered my questions. Sometimes I do see that they're late in answering some people's questions, but part of that's because they're operating in China, in a time zone for China and not for the US. But they have a Delaware, USA phone number. Oh, I didn't know that. Huion actually had phone call. Well, that's great. That's actually really good. Sometimes they are really good. The thing is, I see so many people talk about customer support with so many brands. Obviously, not everyone has a great experience, but it's important to notice that sometimes they do. Nick says, depends on what you want from support. If you buy used tablets if you buy used tablets, they'll hardly have a warranty. So if it breaks, no one will help you. Yeah. I kind of want Intuos3 just to have it. It's $20 US. Yeah, it's excellent. $20 US, $20 US for PTZ 930 is fantastic. You get it. Trust me, I have that model and I wish I had paid $20. That would be fantastic. Now the question is, do you get a working pen, right? Okay, so let's now talk, this is the brand. Then we're gonna talk a little bit about, we talked about brand and age in this slide, okay? And so I think Wacom almost any age will work in terms of whether it will work at all. With Huion, XP Pen, etc., you want something a bit newer, to be honest, okay? Now, let's talk about where you can buy them, okay? Because this is... So you can find used tablets all sorts of places. Now, the primary places, of course, you know this, that I find used tablets is eBay. That's almost always where I bought a used tablet. You can find them on other sites. I think even Amazon has some used stuff or refurbished ones. If you know of any other sites, tell me, but that's the #1 place I go to for used stuff. Now, I want you to notice that you can buy from just like, random people, random sellers, but also Wacom, Huion, and XP Pen have stores on eBay. Like, it's their official stores, okay? And you might, for example, want to, if you're concerned about a random seller, you might want to go into the official stores there and buy a refurbished unit, okay? Now, what you should do with a refurbished unit is, of course, ask about the warranty, right? Because if you buy something from a random seller, I don't think the warranty will apply. Like, I don't think you get a warranty, but if you buy refurbished, there's a chance. I haven't done it, but we can check if we, in the stream. Okay, so keep in mind they have these stores. We'll go to one of them just to show you what it's like. Let's see. eBay. And let's get there. eBay, and I want Wacom. Hopefully. Yeah, you see I typed in Wacom and it says Wacom on eBay. So this is Wacom official outlet, direct from brand. If you ever are concerned whether this is actually them or someone, scamming and pretending to be them, just send an email to customer support and they'll tell you. For example, I think I saw one with XP Pen. Maybe I saw two of them, and I said, "Is this both like one in EU and one in US?" And I thought, are both of these the official store? And they said yes. Okay. Oh, Nick says those official refurbished Wacoms you checked on eBay do have a 1-year warranty. So warranties are important because you want that. If you buy something, it should work. Okay. Let's take a look and just take a look at the prices for things that are in the official outlet, right? So let's see. Okay, so this is actually an example of, normally this would be $2,500, but this one is it refurbished though? Yeah, it's refurbished. It's $2,200. I think that's too much for a refurbished unit. I wouldn't pay that, okay? I think it's too much. But let's try to do a popular tablet, because people ask about the PTH 660, for example. Okay, direct from Wacom 200. It's a good price, but we're going to talk about the challenges again of these specific tablets. We started earlier, drivers, etc., but this is actually a decent price. I think the normal price, I can't remember what it is for the PTH 660. It's a little bit more, I think. So I'm not seeing like super great deals here, to be completely honest. Let's see. Wacom, yeah, some of these are new as well, so you got to keep that in mind. So check these out. Let's just take a look at Huion for a moment. That's right. We see the Wacom 113, which is the first Wacom One tablet they ever released. Look at this. The original list price was $400. Now it's $280 or $180. Sorry. Let's take a look at Huion, if we can find their store. Let's go direct from Huion. I think this must be it. Okay, so let's. Again, you want to double check by contacting customer support, and let's pick a tablet that I've been getting questions about, which is let's try to find a Canvas, a large one, right? Canvas 22. I'm not gonna do plus. Let's do 22. Well, we'll do the plus. So this one is $300. Is it a great tablet? It's okay. It's okay. It's got its connections aren't very elegant, but it works fine. I have one, okay? It works fine. But I think probably the XP Pen Artist 22 Plus is probably a better choice, okay? And this discount isn't much. It's not much. Albert, it's not proprietary. It's not proprietary. You can just use any USB cable that carries data. It is a good tablet, Ascot. It is a good tablet. It is overpriced. Normal price for PTH 660 should be... Yeah, 150 is what I'd expect for a PTH 660. 200 is like, I'm not feeling that, right? I'm not feeling that. But I just want to let you know there are official stores, okay? You don't have to just shop in random places. Okay. Let's see. So which tablets do I mean, just specific tablets? Let's close this for a second. Which do I think are good used tablets right now? Well, we have to consider age, okay? Remember, at least for Wacom, the support lifetime seems to be, I don't think they've ever published this, lifetime is about 10 to 12 years, okay? So if you're gonna buy as we talked about earlier, I'm repeating this for people who just joined the stream, Intuos Pro PTH 660, and this one came out, this is the 2017 model. I think support's gonna get dropped in 2027, 2027 to 2029, possibly 2030, okay? That's when you're at risk now. First of all, Wacom support won't help you. And I don't mean to criticize them. It's out of support. And new drivers won't be updated, and future drivers will actively deny being used with the tablet. So if you ever have to upgrade drivers after this point, you've potentially got a problem, okay? Now we're gonna cover, and I'm looking at we have comments here. If one doesn't find the 120 Hz needed, would a Wacom 24 Touch or not be comparable if one were to calibrate the profiles themselves? I'm not a color expert, Carlo Cusa. I would say it would work fine, but I don't work in an environment where I know a lot about color or have strong personal requirements. But I think in general, the Wacom 24 Touch or the Wacom 24, the new 2025 models are very good. And if you can calibrate them, it would work for a lot of people. This is a great question. Touch, since it costs $300, $400, is it worth it? I would say most people don't use touch on their tablets. The vast majority, actually, but some who do really do. If I had to pick between touch and a TurBox, I would easily pick the TurBox. Okay, I think it's better to spend that money on the TurBox than touch. Even though I turn on touch like 1 out of every 50 times, and I think it's very useful when I do that. But most of the time, 99% of the time, I do not do that. Okay. Now, okay, so here's another thing that people struggle with when they buy used tablets. Okay, and let me go back to, which is what comes in the box. So many times, you have to check with the seller, right? The thing that I see that people forget is pen, and is it a working pen, right? And then number 2, do you get all the cables? With a pen tablet, it's not a big deal if they don't have the cables because they can use basically any cable as long as it fits and carries data. But with pen displays, it can be complicated, right? With pen displays. And the reason it gets complicated is for carrying the video signal, a specific cable is needed. Sometimes there are 3-in-1 cables involved. So they might forget some cables or not. So you want to be double check. What you should do is make sure you look up, or you can ask people, you can ask me which cables come with it. It's usually published on Wacom's site or whoever, and double check with the seller that those exact cables came with it, okay? So I just want to make sure you know that, because sometimes you will see, and they will advertise this or they'll put it in the listing if possible, that it doesn't come with the pen. Now remember, pens are expensive, okay? You got to keep that pen cost in mind. So if you get a PTH 660, let's just make this case up. You get a PTH 660 and with no pen, right? Without pen, without the Pro Pen 2. So let's suppose this cost you $100, right? And you're pretty happy with that deal. Getting a Pro Pen 2 will cost you maybe $80, right? So suddenly it's not as good as a deal as it was a minute ago, right? Because you're going to spend $180 total, right? So keep that in mind. It is super important. Camilino, you want touch and the TurBox. Let's see, Flackbus says, in your opinion, would you say an Intuos Pro Medium is better to draw on a laptop screen? I'm using the small one. I'm not sure of upgrading size. I think the general consensus, and I certainly feel this way, and I think I strongly feel this way. It's a good question, and let me write it down. So size for a pen tablet, okay? Size. I will always recommend, if I don't know anything about what you're doing for a pen tablet, I would say get a medium. Now medium means roughly 11 inches diagonal, okay? You'd have to look up the exact numbers for a tablet, but a Wacom Intuos Pro is just like half an inch under this, a medium. For pen display, of course, it just matters what you want, okay? Any size works. I think I prefer 22 inch, but lots of people do 16 inches, right? Lots of people are there. Lots of people work with 13 inches, especially if there's first tablet or they're beginners or they're, children. And then I think, you get down to 24 and 27, you get rarer and rarer. So I think you're going to find a lot of good deals, especially in this price range, honestly, with some starting in the larger sizes. For a laptop, this kind of medium size, I think will work okay. Though, in general, I think it's more comfortable to draw with a screen, if you can. Remember, if you get a medium-sized tablet, in the driver, you can tell the driver to use a smaller portion and make it feel exactly like a smaller tablet. So it's no worry if you get a medium, okay? And Nick likes the large left. Yeah. It's very weird if the tablet has a bigger screen, meaning its active area is bigger than the laptop. It feels very strange to do that. Okay, I need to just step away for just 1 minute. I'll be right back. Okay, I am back, and I decided to take off my jacket because it's a little warm in here for some strange reason, even though it's basically winter. And I was just feeling a bit stuffy, so I still keep on my bright pink shirt. It's actually not this bright, but the lighting makes it seem that way. I may need to tone down some of the brightness so it doesn't look as insane. Okay, Flackbus says, I watched your video about force proportions, and that certainly revolutionized how you draw. Oh, good, good. I'm glad that helped. Proportion between tablet and screen is BS. You don't need... Well, I don't think you need them to match, Nick. I think you gotta find what works for you. And my experiments on me showed me that in general, what feels natural for me is that the screen is about twice as big diagonally as the tablet active area. And, you know, something like, and it's quite variable. Like it can be almost, you know, I can't remember the exact numbers. It could be 1.5 or it could be 3, but like there is some cases where they don't work well for me, right? So I think people should just experiment with that. Where I found the biggest issues for me was when there was a huge discrepancy, meaning small motions caused big things to happen on screen, like lots of motion. It felt disconcerting, just mentally. And the other case is when I was drawing a big gesture on the tablet and it made a very small gesture on the screen. I found that disconcerting. It's not that it didn't work, The strokes look just as nice. It just felt really weird. The exception is when you're using, of course, a laptop, because laptop screens don't get long. Laptop screens are just like 16 inches basically at the maximum. So a medium tablet, even though, it doesn't quite fit my size ratio, it still works, I think. But the aspect ratio does need to match, right? Active area versus tablet versus screen. That you need to get that matching, not the ratio of sizes. Let's see. Intuos Pro L for my 24-inch screen. Okay. Intuos Pro M for a MacBook 16. Yes, I have both. Yeah, everyone's got their thing, right? All I've ever asked people to do is experiment to see what works for you, right? Because I hate if people buy a tablet and they're not. It feels like it's not calibrated, right? Best XL pen tablet? Yeah, I know that answer is easy, Bermix. It's the Intuos 4 XL, right? Which is a massive tablet, and I love it, but you have to reserve your desk for it. Like it is, and I always say this, like, so I'm 6 feet tall, and my arms are just a little longer than a normal, they're like gorilla arms or something. They're longer a little bit than a normal man my height. And that tablet is big enough that it's like, because if I had to lay it flat on the desk and reach out, even though with my pen, yes, I can touch the upper right-hand corner, I have to hold my arm out like this. Have you ever tried holding your arm out like this? You can't do it for very long before it starts feeling like stressful. So you have to put it at an angle so that the surface is more within the radius of your arm. So it requires adjustments. I love my XL tablet. The only reason I don't use it right now is that just my desks, I'm doing so much tablet testing that it's easier to have a large tablet instead of a extra large. Okay. And hello, Pleasing, nice to see you. Wow, we have a big audience today. I would agree with you, Nick, that if you need big strokes and gestures, you need the L size. I agree. I think people who may come from a more of a traditional style, where they're painting, where they use more of that, are probably, they will notice it more. I came from a sketching thing where I'm sketching with my wrist, so I had to learn how to draw big, right? Okay, so, yeah, I think size matters, but just, this is it doesn't matter, used or not used, I recommend medium for pen tablets, and I think 16 is a good number for pen displays. Okay. Now, let's see. I want to just... Okay, yeah, I get it. There's another topic that's very important about used. It relates to pens, okay? So, this is called pen, it's availability. So you got to keep this in mind, because this is going to really cause havoc if you're not prepared. Let's suppose you buy a tablet, okay? Well, one case is it doesn't come with a pen, so you have to find... This is a very bad pen, okay? I'm not even sure I like the way I drew that. But that's a pen. So if it doesn't come with a pen, you're going to have to buy a pen, okay? Sometimes, so unfortunately, sometimes you don't find the pens being sold by themselves, okay? That's problem number one. There have been at least once or twice that I bought a tablet, it didn't have a pen, okay? I had to buy another tablet, like I bought a small one with a pen. Not because I wanted the small tablet, I just needed the pen. So you can be put in this situation, because remember, pens and tablets are highly specific. Like a random pen will not work with a random tablet. You have to find the exact pen that is compatible with the tablet. Okay, so be aware. Next thing is you have to think ahead. Because even if you have a pen, it is going, one day you're going to lose it, or you're going to break it, or your dog, or your dog will chew on it. Something will happen to this pen to mess it up. And so if you're going to buy a tablet, I always recommend that you buy a spare pen, okay? It's useful for debugging and it's useful in these situations. Now, thinking through this a little bit more, you want to buy a tablet where you see that it's not hard to find one of the compatible pens, okay? You want to see that those pens are they're still in the market. So if you buy an older tablet, you will tend to see these older pens are just harder to come by, okay? So keep that in mind. You don't buy a tablet even if it's cheap if the pen is rare, because that means if the pen is ever lost, your investment is gone. Maybe you can tolerate the risk, but I just want to make sure you know about it. Let's see, Albert says, I lean towards using wrists and drawing really bad strokes. Yeah, I'm the same way. I have to force myself. Force myself. So please keep that in mind, okay? Okay. Related to that is nibs. Right? Like, look, find a supply. If you buy one of these super old Wacom tablets, great. You have 3 pens, great. Lots of times you don't get extra nibs. So, verify if nibs come in box, and verify you can buy more nibs. Because especially if you're a person who goes through nibs a lot, you buy a used tablet and next thing you know, you can't find compatible nibs. Then you're just, they don't fit your pen. Be aware of this, okay? Okay, let me open my notes a little bit more. Let's make sure I didn't miss anything. And for the pens and nibs, this is one reason I don't recommend Intuos 2 and Intuos 3. It's getting hard to find those pens and those nibs. Okay, it's getting harder and harder. Okay, and remember, drivers will actively reject pens that the tablet's not supposed to be compatible with. Let's see. Camille says, buy a spare pen or buy a tablet model where the pens are still available as a standalone purchase. Yes, that is a good one. That is a good tip. I'm glad you mentioned that. Sometimes you can only find pens with tablets, but if you can still find standalone pens available, that's great. It's a good sign. Pro Pen 2 will be available for as long as Chinese markets like AliExpress are filled with them, but they are not cheap. Yeah, they're like $80. I do think that on AliExpress you see a lot of people making nibs for the Pro Pen 2, which is good. And that's the good thing about Wacom, again, like especially if you go with actually, we'll talk about it in a second. It's actually, should you get a Pro or a non-Pro? Okay? Pro versus non-Pro. And here, realistically, again, I'm really talking more about Wacom, but in general, it might apply to other brands, but definitely applies to Wacom. If you're going to get a used tablet, you could get an Intuos Pro, or you could get like an Intuos or a One by Wacom. I think if it's Wacom, you're probably safe either way, as long as you've taken into account these other considerations. I think used is a good way to explore the Pro space, right? Again, as long as you can find pens, etc. And I think the reason what you get out of the pen is you just get better pens, you get a more premium experience, and the ecosystem is still well supported. As Nick just points out, right? There are still people making the pen standalone. Wacom's still making the pen standalone. People are making nibs, so all those things are still true, right? Let's see. Camille says, when I was trying to sell my Cintiq 12 WX, I've gotten a lot of offers to buy the pen. Okay, interesting. That's fantastic to know, Camille. And it surprises me, but in a sense, it doesn't surprise me as well, because people need the pens. They need the pens. Meanwhile, I have like cornered the market on Intuos 1 pens and Intuos 2 pens. Like, I think I've bought so many. Okay, got nibs. Okay, another consideration which you really have to take into account is, what is it? Physical aspects, okay? Meaning wear and tear of the tablets, okay? So this is super important. And it's super important for both pen tablets and pen displays, but in different ways. So you want to carefully look at the pictures, right? Like, look at pictures. If possible, you would want, how can I say this? You want to ask the question like, can the scratches be felt through the pen? If they can, that means the surface is really scratched up. Okay? And maybe you don't want that. Okay? And it's good if the seller has pictures from different sort of angles so you can see, because sometimes it's really hard to see the scratches. Okay? Scratches aren't necessarily bad. All tablets have some wear, but if there's they can be felt through the pen, you don't want that. Remember, though, some Intuos Pro models have texture sheets, replaceable texture sheets, okay? And I have at least once bought a tablet that has, it has kind of a little bit of a used surface, but I had a texture sheet and I replaced it. And it's just a brand new surface. And that was great. However, the texture sheets aren't exactly cheap. They're about $40 and they're getting hard to find. Again, this is one reason why getting a newer tablet might work out better, because some of these older accessories are just harder to find. Nick says, Wacom Pro versus non-pro is buy versus forget about. No, I think there are a few I would buy that are non-pro, like the one by Wacom, CTL672, even the CTL6100, as long as you're getting a good price for it, okay? But yeah, Albert, you're right. The non-pro tablets from Wacom do not have tilt. So that's a good point to be aware of. Let's see if there's anything else on this kind of cosmetic wear that I want to point out. Yeah, you don't care about purely cosmetic wear. So for example, if there's scratches on the buttons of the tablet, who cares, right? Does not matter. But if it's on the active area, especially, it can be on the surface, but if it's on the active area, you want to avoid that, okay? Now let's take a look at a few on eBay. You can sort of see. Now in pen displays, you gotta be real careful, because a pen display that's scratched up is a different story. If it's etched glass that's scratched up, you're not gonna have a good time, because you can't fix that. Let's see. Let's take a look at let's just take a look at a Cintiq, right? Let's see if we can find examples of some wear in photos, because sometimes you can see it pretty bad. Let's take a look at this one. This looks like I see a little bit of. I don't know what's going on here. If those are just fingerprints, but you'd want to ask the seller in this case, what are we seeing here, right? Like, are these right here where I'm pointing, are those scratches or what is that? You want a smooth surface, okay? You want a smooth surface. Let's see if we can see it. And what are these dark regions? That concerns me a little bit. Pen displays are usually damaged by dropping and cracking, not scratching. Let's see, Cami Luna says, I almost purchased a refurbished Canvas Pro 19 for $650, but was afraid of scratched or Yeah, I totally get it. I haven't bought that many pen displays for the exact same reason, Cami Luna, because they're sensitive devices. Like, they can get damaged, as Nick says, by dropping and cracking. So the seller might actually have a working unit, but like by the time you get it, like a TV, it could have cracked. And then, yeah, the scratches, you just have to be very careful of. That's why pen tablets, especially Intuos Pro, are good, because you can replace the texture sheets. And even if you don't replace the texture sheets, You could just add another layer on top of it to smoothen it out. Let's see. So if you do get one that's a little bit worn, consider getting like effectively a screen protector to cover it, right? Or some kind of plastic film that's even opaque, just for a pen tablet. Okay, and then let's see. We talked about the aspect ratio. Oh yeah, this is a weird one. Let me get back to a new sheet here. Eric says, as a hobbyist, I spend way too long comparing every single tablet, trying to figure out which one to buy. In the end, decide an iPad, though you haven't bought it yet, okay? Mainly because if I eventually get bored of drawing, I'll still get plenty of use out of it. True. That's, I think, a very smart decision, Eric. And it's a super smart decision. Look, because it's useful for things beyond drawing, okay? I highly think that was a wise choice. Beer Mix says, I have some scratches on my Wacom Cintiq 21UX. The scratch is on the film. Can I use it without the film thingy? It started. Okay, so good question. Let's try to answer this. So some tablets don't have etched glass. They have protective film. Now, the issue is, for some tablets, the film is intended to be replaced, meaning you are expected, they sell replacement films, and the film that's on there, if it gets scratched up, you can actually relatively easily pull it off, right? You might have to dig with your fingernail to get a little bit of a purchase on it, but then you can slowly pull it off, okay? So that's case number one. Case number two is they don't intend for you to do it, meaning take off the film, but it's not hard to do, okay? And there, you might have to work at it a little bit more, but some of them can be easily removed. Now, you're not going to find a replacement, so you have to go to a third party like Photodon and buy a film. The third case, and we don't know which one it is for your tablet, is the film was never intended to be replaced. So a great example of that is the Wacom One DTC 133, the Wacom One 2019 edition. I have tried to pry off the film of it. It is really hard, and I failed at it. In fact, it's so difficult. Wacom support even said it's not meant to be removed. And I get the feeling if I really tried, I would crack the screen with the amount of force I was pushing. So some are not meant to have it replaced. So if you can't do it easily, you might not want to do it. So the way to ask is ask support Beer Mix about it, right? But if you can remove it without damaging it, then yeah, you can use it. However, I would still recommend, if you're going to remove it, sometimes what you'll see is the pixels will seem clearer, but you get a lot of glare. So you may need to add a third-party film to deal with that glare. And Eric, yeah, your reasoning made total sense. Made total sense to me. Are there any top used recommendations you have? Maybe like a Moving 13, since it's relatively new and overpriced at retail price. Let's work on that list, Rain. Let me just get through a few more topics, okay? And we'll take a look at Nick says they're not available on eBay yet, but we'll take a look and see what is. Oh, yeah, I can tell you that. Which Wacoms I don't recommend? The Wacom One M, the Wacom One M, which is a pen tablet, and the Wacom One S, which is a pen tablet. The model numbers are CTC 6110WL and CTC 4110WL, because they have pressure banding problems that were improved with firmware, but they're super expensive and the pen isn't great and the drawing experience isn't great. I don't think they live up to the Wacom name. So I do not recommend those two tablets. Cintiq Pro, oh, interesting. Nick says Cintiq Pro 32. I'm not so familiar with that model, so I'd love, Nick, if you can elaborate what problems people find with them. Because basically no one on the Discord, or no one that I know has one. I've only basically seen them on YouTube. I've never seen anyone talk about what it was like to use them. Okay. One thing I want to talk to you about is the aspect ratio. So everyone knows here I talk about forced proportions all the time. Here's a 16 by 9 like monitor, and ideally, let me write down 16 by 9. Ideally, your tablet, no matter what its physical shape, its active area would also be 16 by 9. Okay. Now, no matter what, you can fix this. In Wacom, you check the box that says forced proportions. And if it's, for example, 16 by 10, which is a little bit taller, what'll happen is it will actually, I'll use a different color for this. Let's try red or orange. It will actually use this active area instead, which is closer to 16 by 9, okay? Even though the bigger, so you want to turn on forced proportions. Okay? Now, now that I've told you this, you have to remember, older tablets, this is so bad, the writing, older tablets, they tend to be not 16 by 9. There's nothing wrong with that, but you just have to make sure with older tablets, you almost certainly have to turn on forced proportions, okay? Yeah, Camila, 32 Pro actually existed. It actually existed. It's huge. In fact, let's do a little bit of eBay digging. It's hard to imagine the size of those things, honestly, because the bezels are super wide too. So it's more like it is wide and big. eBay. Let's go back to eBay. Let's find it. I kind of want one, to be completely honest, just to say, I have one. Teak. Sometimes I get tablets, as I tell people, because it's a baller move. And getting a Cintiq 32 would kind of be a baller move. Cintiq Pro 32, maybe? Is it even being sold still? I don't even see it here. Let me sort by price, because of course it would be super expensive. Sort by price. Oh, it's lowest first. I want highest first. $3,000. So yeah, and see those big bezels? Like this was, oh yeah, the way you can know the bezels are big is that remote control is sitting on the bezel. Okay. Nick says people were mass replacing the screen. Some manufacturing problem. They were unbonding. Oh God. I'll research into that. I may vaguely have a recollection of that. But yeah, I just think this is just too much, right? Also, people underestimate what it's... Everyone thinks bigger is better. That's just like our philosophy in life. But even speaking from a 27-inch Cintiq Pro, people don't realize how much effort it is. I'm using my mouse here, right? Let me show you. Sorry, you didn't see the screen. Here's my mouse. Moving, let's say if you're using the pen to move the pointer from the left to the right and to touch these things up here, it will just really wear it out. It wears out your arm, right? You just have to travel so much distance, right? UI has to be optimized to work correctly at those sizes. Okay. And you didn't see what I don't think you saw it. I was writing with my aspect ratio. So let's make sure you can see that if I can get there. Oh, I was there. Okay, yeah. So watch out for this aspect ratio. It doesn't matter what aspect ratio it is, but you're almost certainly going to turn on forced proportions, especially if it's a Wacom device. So just be aware of that. Another thing that you're going to notice is, let's see, the thickness. I was about to put 2 C's, by the way. Thickness. Today, modern pen tablets, pen tabs, they are like 8 millimeters, 10 millimeters. These older ones are much thicker. They can be something like 15 millimeters, right? Not a big deal. Some can be much bigger, right? Some might be like 20 millimeters. They can be very thick. And 20 is even small for some of these, by the way. So just be aware when you think about the ergonomics of it. They can be very thick. They can be heavier as well. The Intuos 4XL is like, it's like an inch thick, right? Now, they didn't have to do that, but they did for some reason. And it can be a lot to deal with. Let's see, Aaron Blaze still uses Cintiq Pro 32, but he's a Disney artist guy. He loves drawing with his shoulder. Yeah. And he is awesome. His art is amazing. I once tried playing Osu, Cami Luna says, with the PTH 651, and my arm got tired after one. So yeah, I tried the same thing with a PTH 860, and I was struggling. Like I felt like I was, out of breath in moving the arm around. Okay, so that's another thing to watch out for. Another thing you'll see with older tablets, it depends on the age. It has to deal with cabling and ports, okay? So first of all, really old tablets, really old ones. Intuos 4 is a perfect example. The, what do you call it? The cables are not, they're attached. The cables are built in. Cables are built in. So you have to be careful. If you ruin the cable, you might not be able to use the tablet. Cables are affixed to the tablet. You can't remove them. They don't have ports. They just have a cable coming out. Sort of like relatively old ones. The cables are detachable, but they have like a micro USB-C port. So it's not a problem. You just need to get an adapter. So be prepared. A micro USB port, not micro USB-C. So you just have to be prepared for that. Okay, I need to take a quick bio break. I'll be right back in a minute. Okay, I am back, and where I left off was talking about these micro USB ports. Again, it's not a problem, but it's something you should just be aware of. You will need an adapter, and I have a link on my website for some adapters I personally use. Okay, and then what are some of the issues you're going to run into? If you get really old tablets, you might run into US, serial ports. But I wouldn't recommend getting those anyway. You want to stick, I think, to a tablet. Honestly, if you're going to get a used tablet, get one that's been made like in the last 5 years, honestly. Before that, I think if you're an enthusiast, then get a tablet that's much old. But you're going to have to invest time in configuring it with Open Tablet Driver, things like that. And that takes time. So that brings me to my third point, which is drivers. And we talked about that earlier. Driver support will end, and at some point, the OS will have some sort of problem, which will require to get a newer driver, but the newer driver will not work with the older tablet. Now you got a problem. You can continue to use the older one until this happens. When this happens, you got to decide. Either you get a new tablet or maybe use Open Tablet Driver. And Open Tablet Driver is not... to just set it up, like to install it is easy. That's not the problem. Excuse me. It's on Windows to install it and on Mac OS, but not quite as much. There's so much more you have to do to make it usable to you the way you would expect a driver to work. And this isn't to say anything bad about Open Tablet Driver. I'm just telling you, it really is geared for someone that's more technical and wants to put in a little bit more effort. And it is missing features that you would expect out of a normal tablet driver. For example, it doesn't have a pressure curve. You have to use a plugin to do that, and the plugin doesn't have any UI. You have to go to a separate website to see what the numbers will translate into. Again, if you're an enthusiast, it totally makes sense. If you're a normal person, you're not going to enjoy the experience. Let me just show you what I'll just go through the document showing you what it's like to install Open Tablet Driver on Windows. Let's go Open Tablet Driver, and let's get there. I'm just going to walk you through just the headings so you have an idea of what I'm talking about. And again, no criticism is implied of Open Tablet Driver, the team, or the project. It's just this is the reality of setting it up as an artist, okay? So, first of all, if you're uncomfortable with it, get a technical person to help you, okay? So first of all, you have to download some things, okay? And also you have to uninstall any existing drivers. So you can't have the Wacom driver and Open Tablet Driver installed, okay? Then you have to install another driver called vMulti. The short answer is it's complicated, but you need vMulti to use pressure on Windows, okay? Otherwise you won't get any pressure. So you got to uninstall this, and that might reboot your machine, okay? So you have to be prepared for that. Once you've done that, you install the .NET Runtime. You may not need to, but you have to check, and if so, you might have to install a very specific version. Once now, going back to the download of Open Tablet Driver, you have to unzip it, and then you launch it, and then you have to install the Windows Ink plugin. See, this is starting to add up, isn't it? And then you have to map the screen, which is a very peculiar UI for Open Tablet Driver. It's very simple in normal drivers, but here it's a little more complicated. Meaning just the UI is weirder. It's not what you'd be used to. Then you have to go and turn on the setting in the bottom right from absolute mode to Windows Ink absolute mode. See, that's a step you never have to do with a normal driver. Then you have to go to this thing and turn on the pen buttons to do the things you expect. And that requires 4 different settings. And no matter what you do, you can't use both buttons the way you would on a Wacom. I think they'll both just end up right-clicking or something. You can't make them do different things, or at least it's more difficult. So there's all these settings you have to do. I'm not even done. This is if your tablet has buttons, this is how you configure the buttons. Like there's no picture of the buttons. It just says there's these bindings, okay, between the buttons. And it doesn't give you all the features you might be using in your current tablet driver. And every time you make a save, every time you make a change, you have to hit save and apply at the bottom. Otherwise the UI is showing the change, but it won't actually force the change. Once you've done that, we're not even done. Uh, uh, you may need to, so that driver will not start every time your computer starts. So you have to set that up. Then what about pressure curves? Well, you have to install a plugin written by Cube called SlimyScylla. And it has many different filters, as they call them. And this is how you configure the pressure curve. I know you're thinking like, wow, this is crazy. It all makes sense if you're kind of understand what's going on, but there's no UI. If you want to see the UI, you see these numbers here? You plug in the numbers here, and then it'll tell you what the curve does, right? So like this, right? So you understand it is complicated. It is not something I'd expect a normal person to do. If you need to do it, you need help, okay? You need help. Let's see, there's more to this. I'm not trying to scare you off Open Tablet Driver. I just want you to be, have a good understanding what's involved. Where is the Open Tablet Driver? Here we go. Let's leave this. And yeah, so there's just more to it, right? It is not as easy as just install it and it just works. You have to go through some steps. Maybe I'll do a video on doing it one day. Yeah, good point, Nick. Super old Huion XP pens don't really exist. I think Huion I think was created in 2011, so you don't see like Huion tablets as far as I know from the year 2000 or something like that. Stephanie says, I love using Intuos Pro with OTD, which is basically the best. Yeah, it is more responsive, right? Because it doesn't do any smoothing, but you might want some smoothing, and for that you need to use the SlimyScylla plugin. Cammy Luna says, I couldn't use OTD with PTK 470 because I have different pen settings for my Pro Pen. Oh, okay. That's a great point, because Cammy Luna taught us this last week. The Wacom driver has different settings for different pens. And that's not something that Open Tablet Driver can deal with. Maybe it could, but it doesn't handle that, right? So there's lots of these things. Again, I don't want to put you off Open Tablet Driver. I'm just saying, if you have an old tablet or a used tablet and you're willing to put in time, okay. But it's not just plug and play. You need some work at this. Okay, let me take a look at anything else I wanted to say here. Talked about ports. We talked about the different sizes. Okay, I think Rain maybe earlier asked, which tablets would I recommend for used? I'm going to go through there and just, we'll go through and we'll show you, okay? We'll start with my recommendations and then we'll just see which ones might actually work better used. Recommendations. Okay, hang on. I'm just looking at my current list so I can tell you about older ones. Let's start with pen tablets. Just start with medium pen tablets. I think PTH 660 is totally fine to use. I wouldn't go lower than this because support has already been dropped. Okay, below PTH, the 660 series, sorry, the X60 series, you're gonna have to deal with Open Tablet Driver. You're just forced to. And in a few years, you'll have to deal with this tablet too. So this is probably this or the Intuos Pro from the 2013 series is the lowest I'd really go. The Intuos 5 is already out. I think, yeah. The one by Wacom, I think once it comes out of, if you get a used one, it's actually fine. Okay? It's actually totally fine. Now we're confronted with Deco, XP Pen Deco. These are probably going to be fine too, honestly, because they're relatively new tablets, and I'm okay with the pen. So these will probably work fine. Same with Deco Pro. I think you're fine on this list. Same with Frego. So I think basically anything on this list will work fine. Okay, and most of these are actually quite recent. Hey, Camila, thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate that you were on the stream and chatting. Okay, have a great day. Even this one, if you want it, even, I said it's good but overpriced. The Wacom Intuos Medium. It's fine. It's fine. I probably would not get the HS611. It's not a bad tablet, but like modern tablets have just evolved from Huion. Large pen tablets. Honestly, any of these would work fine. Of the Huion Giano or the HP Pen Deco XLW, all these will work fine. They're all very recent tablets. What about small? It's very similar. Intuos Pro, one by Wacom, Intuos, Frago, and Deco. I don't recommend getting the Wacom One S or the Wacom One Medium. I don't think they're good tablets. What about pen displays? Well, that's a good question. Let's find pen display recommendations here. Let's start with medium. These are relatively new, so I wouldn't have any problem. If you got them used, I think you'd be fine. I don't think you should get the Wacom Cintiq 22. I mean, it's actually okay. It's okay. It's just that be prepared that the screen is kind of washed out. There's a lot of parallax, but other than that, it works fine. It also has a bit of older proprietary cabling, if I recall, but it's fine. Cintiq 16 is probably similar to that. It's just a little bit older, and again, you have to wonder about when Wacom's going to drop support for it. So yeah, those are some of the ones I would, I think you're safer sticking to Wacom overall for used pen tablets and pen displays. Oh, one more thing that I wanted to mention. Let me find the whiteboard because I need to talk about this one. So this does happen, and why it happens is a little bit of this is just the nature of life. And this is, sometimes there's incorrect listings, okay? This means on eBay or wherever. I'll just say eBay so everyone knows what I mean. You might see someone say a Wacom One. Like that's what they'll say. And because they don't know tablets, but it's really you guessed it, it's actually a One by Wacom. Okay? That's one problem you'll see with sellers. That's happened to me at least twice, right? They just have the wrong tablet, and they can't tell the difference, okay? And they might have, I'll just make this one up. They might say, oh, this is the Intuos Pro, but it's just the Intuos. Okay, that happens. I've seen that happen. Another one is it might say, oh, this is the Intuos Pro. And I'm not saying anyone's scamming anyone. It just happens this way because they don't know what they have in their inventory. Intuos Pro Medium. That happens a lot. Okay? They have the wrong size. Could I use the outdated Wacom driver for Intuos 3? That should work. I mean, I think it may not be wise to use Windows XP, but yeah, that should work. Absolutely. Oh, since people are asking about older drivers, I actually have something that may help you. There's two links. One actually links to the other one, but I'll show you both. Wacom older driver. Okay. So I've got this page, which is older Wacom drivers, which sends you to this page, okay? You can go to the Wacom site, but I have my own page, okay? So let me just show you the first page. If you're having trouble finding these older drivers, this may save you some time. And by the way, some apps are flaky. Like sometimes Photoshop doesn't have pressure with the older drivers, but it will with the newer ones. So, I can't guarantee it's going to work in every app either. Okay, so I have my own driver list, okay? And I'm opening it up, and I'm just going to go ahead and paste it in here for you. So if you're looking for an old driver, now, by the way, I'm not copying, I'm not storing these drivers. These are actually linked to Wacom. You can see that when I hover at the bottom, the actual location, it says Wacom.com. And not all of these are available, but some are. Okay, so for example, if I click on 6.4.11.1, which is a very recent version, if I click, it'll download, right? I'm going to stop the download. But if I click on something that was made back in 2011, it might not work. Okay, see, it says can't find. So basically what this means, Wacom has a record of it, but they don't store it anymore. In some cases, archive.org has it. So here you can see the link is here, but again, Wacom doesn't actually have that driver, but archive.org may have it. And if I see that there's URL, there you go, right? So if you need an Intuos driver, you can download them from here. And of course, if you go to Wacom's site, if you type in the name of your tablet, it'll tell you the last driver that supported it. Okay, where was I? Yeah, another thing I'll see here is wrong photos, right? Like they'll insist, they'll correctly take the photo, but like they've taken the wrong photos. I've seen that. I've had a tablet, I thought I was buying one tablet, but I got a different one, but the pictures were of the one I wanted. But they sent, because I guess they messed up, but I kept it because I do want that tablet. Yeah, it does work, Albert. In fact, I'll show it to you that it works offline. You can literally, let's go find the tablet tester. So this is the latest version, right? And I'll just go ahead and draw. By the way, the change of this latest version is that some of the processing is here. And so if I turn on position smoothing, you'll see the X and Y have turned red, meaning there's some processing for the X and Y, okay? So let me just reset that. Now, how do you download it? It's pretty simple. I'll just show it to everybody. You can just say, this should work. I've actually never literally done this. Let's try downloading this page. There's no right click on this page. Let's see if I can. Cast, save page as, downloads. Yep. Okay, let's take a look at my downloads folder. And then there you go. It works offline, see? So yeah, feel free to save it. I do update it probably at least every month, but so there are new versions. And if you have suggestions, just let me know. So Albert, I hope that answered your question. Okay, anything else I wanted to say about used? Let me check my notes here. Give me a second. I'm gonna go fetch one more thing here. Video report. Okay. I'm just generating a report of my notes about the used tablets. I think we've covered all the basic issues. Again, I think used tablets are good. You have to be careful, because I don't want you to get disappointed and buy one that's just cheap and used and then feel like, you just wasted your money. Okay, give me a second. I'm waiting for Notebook LM to generate a summary. I'm actually thinking I may stream later tonight too. I want to do one on, what was the other topic that I wanted? Let me take a look. The other topic was pen tablets versus pen displays. So I might do that tonight. Just depends on my energy level and what else I have going on. Okay, the report's taking a while. So, okay, anything else? I think we're good. Okay, everyone, I think we covered all the basic topics of getting a used drawing tablet. And again, I may be streaming later tonight, so we may have more to talk about tonight. With that, I think I'll end the stream in a second, and I do want to thank all of you for your comments and keeping me engaged. This was really... Oh, Stephanie, yeah, I was just talking about that channel with my friend. I actually want to launch it. I'm thinking in the first week of December. Or I might even do it next week, sometime between next week and the first week of December. So I'm very excited about it. It's going to be very different, very different. But I guess I just have to set it up, don't I? I mean, there's nothing else I can say, but I need to set up a channel and just do it. Okay, I'll do one last check to make sure I haven't missed anything. But I think we did cover everything. Yeah, I think we covered everything. Okay, everyone. Again, thanks for your time, and I may be streaming again tonight. Everyone, have a great day. Okay.